Not a lot of actual policies talked about at the inauguration today, but the new president, Joe Biden, did declare a brand new war on domestic terrorism, which does seem like the headline. We've been waiting for this for a little while. The country's intelligence establishment seems to be salivating at the thought of treating fellow Americans like ISIS.
Looking forward, that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of the country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians. And unfortunately, I think there has been this momentum that has been generated as a result of, unfortunately, the demagogic rhetoric of people that just departed government, but also those who continue in the halls of Congress.
Oh, an unholy alliance, if you will. Because I am stupid, I speak exclusively in cliches, but I was still able somehow to run the CIA, which ought to tell you something, a lot, really, about the rottenness of our system. But the headline here is insurgents. What you're hearing is that people who disagree with me or may criticize me are in fact insurgents. And of course, politicians love the idea of this. Brad Schneider, for example, is a congressman from Illinois. He's introduced something called the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act to make it a lot easier to spy on the Americans who are paying for the spy agencies. Watch.
Would you like to see more monitoring of radical domestic movements?
Well, the short answer is yes. That's the purpose of this bill.
Yeah. Short answer is yes, purpose of this bill. Glenn Greenwald is the most independent of independent journalists. He writes on Substack, where we hope you support him. He joins us tonight. Glenn, this is starting to make me a little bit nervous. Do the rest of us have cause to be concerned about this trend?
Absolutely. A lot of times if you warn of a danger, you have to piece things together in order to demonstrate that it's actually coming. In this case, you don't have to. They're explicitly saying precisely what they want to do. The thing that struck me so much about that John Brennan video is it would be one thing if they were saying, look, there's a band of people, 20 here, 50 over here, who wear swastika armbands, who still are in the KKK. There's maybe 2,000. We need to. That's not what they're saying. What he's saying is the exact opposite. Every group he lifted, even libertarians. It's essentially he's defining the insurgency as anyone who has an ideology other than neoliberalism. In other words, other than the ruling class view that is about to congeal and merge with the power of the state. And what they're talking about explicitly, Tucker, is using the tools that they used to take ISIS off the internet, the tools that they used to destroy Al-Qaeda. They're talking about it as a second war on terror. And that first war on terror, no matter what your views were originally at the beginning of 9/11, ended up eroding not civil liberties just elsewhere, but here at home as well. One that is born by name of being a domestic war on terror designed to essentially criminalize any oppositional ideology to the ruling class. There is literally nothing that could be more dangerous, and it's not fear-mongering or alarmism to say it. There are bills pending by Adam Schiff as well that would simply take the existing war on terror legislation always aimed at foreign governments and foreign actors and simply amend it to say we can now do that within the United States.
Who's going to stand up in opposition to this? I don't see any of the corporate Republican caucus really even noticing. I see a lot of people I thought were liberal turn out to be not liberal at all, but more authoritarian. So how do we prevent this from happening? Any idea?
Well, one of the things I'm really hoping for is that we can finally get out of enough people believing that the way to understand Washington is Democrat versus Republican, and that you side with one team and believe they're on your side and defending your interest and the other team is your enemy. It is not true. There is a ruling class elite that is extremely comfortable with the establishment wings of both parties. They love Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer every bit as much as they love Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and Marco Rubio and Paul Ryan. Those are the people who they fund equally because those are the people who serve their agenda. Then there's a whole other huge group of people at whose expense they rule. And some of them consider themselves on the left and some consider themselves on the right. And it's time to break down those barriers. I was super enthused to see a group of 8 left-wing politicians, including Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and others, say, we will not allow a new war on terror because we know how dangerous it can be. Let them stand with right-wing members to break down this artificial, false, fraudulent prism that the way to understand Washington is thinking that one of the two parties is on your side. Neither of them is.
I feel like a lot of people are going to be saving that permanently, what you just said, on their DVRs. And I certainly hope they do, because you're right. Glenn Greenwald, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tucker.